What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you for tuning in on this Thursday. Great guest today, the one and only Todd Leopold from Leopold Brothers in Denver, Colorado. Todd, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am excited to talk with you. We go back some years here in Denver. Anybody in the Denver scene for sure has worked with you guys, knows who you guys are. But I want to give people a little bit more background, even before Leopold Brothers started in Colorado. You actually started in Michigan. So let's take us all the way back to the beginning journeys of starting a distillery with your brother. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. We started as a brewery. So we put together a business plan way back in 1994. And Scott and I went to Columbine High School. And we were looking at the Colorado market, and at the time, I always get a laugh at this now in 2020, but at the time there were 14 breweries in Denver Metro.
Wow.
And we concluded that the market was saturated. And of course, I get the giggle now, but it was true. That's how many, really could that was the marketplace back then. So Scott went
to give people
to
context. 14 breweries. There's now well over 100 breweries in Denver Metro, 400 breweries in Colorado. So 14 felt saturated in the 90s.
Hey, listen, I don't claim to be the smarter of the two brothers. So anyway, my brother went to Northwestern for his undergraduate, and he had been to the University of Michigan. It's a Big Ten school, to go see the University of Michigan beat the crap out of Northwestern in football, and really liked Ann Arbor a lot. There weren't any breweries at the time. So we thought that would be a good market to go into. In the meantime, I went to a place called the Siebel Institute up in Chicago, graduated from there in 1996. And then I went and did postgraduate work at a brewing school called Doemens. That's just outside of Munich. Did apprentice work over in German breweries, and then came back and worked temp jobs for 2 years trying to get a bank to be dumb enough to give us money. They finally did, and we opened up the brewery in Ann Arbor in 1999. So we were the closest part of the big house, so 100 and whatever the hell 1,000 people,
110,000 seat capacity.
Yeah. So it wasn't intentional. We just found this beautiful building, 10,000 square foot building that was built in 1910. Wow. Or somewhere around there. Beautiful building, vaulted roof, the whole thing, high ceilings, and I think it was eight and a quarter square foot. So we're like, well, okay, don't have to be a genius to say yes to that. So we opened up as a brew pub. We'd had live music there. You could fit 350 people in there, for events like that. And then of course the football, we turned into a default sports bar. It wasn't intentional. We weren't like that on other days. We were more of a grad school and locals hangout. Scott, my brother, had to deal with a fussy younger brother, who just wanted to make German lagers, unfiltered lagers. So, Bierstadt Lager House and their 3-minute pour.
Of course.
I did that. You want to know how long that lasted? About
Not
2
long.
weeks.
About 3 minutes. It lasted about 3 minutes.
Yeah. And the bartenders are like, dude, what are you talking about? We can't. And, they were right at the time. The place was too big to do that.
Yeah.
So anyways, I changed the carbonation and, made it so it was, but anyways, it was unfiltered lagers. And in 1999, that was not exactly a popular choice. And so what happened was, and of course it was a tasting room. So it was set up like Great Divide or New Belgium or places like that, where the license only allows you to sell what you make.
Right.
As a result, we'd have enormous groups of people that came in because the place was so big. We had big German style picnic tables, because I always liked, my favorite thing about Europe is that people drink together.
Yes.
You can actually meet people and talk, whereas America, you go in with your friends, you don't talk to anybody else, and you leave, which I've always thought was weird.
And even the community tables, there's always a gap between everyone. You don't want to sit right next to somebody.
That's right. Well, what we decided to, change that, and people loved it. We put in board games. We were trying to figure out a way to make it so it wasn't, didn't attract the underage drinking crowd. We didn't want to have to deal with that. And
well, you're in a college town. That's a big issue, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. What we did was we put in board games. And board games made it so people felt more comfortable, sitting together. It's easy to talk about, hey, you're getting your ass kicked in Battleship or whatever it is. It was just a really easy, it was a conversation breaker and made it really easy for people to talk to each other. But in any event, when you get groups of 20, groups of 30, it was not uncommon to have 50 people walk in.
Sure.
When you have that many people, especially in 1999, easily half of them didn't like beer. So what would happen is they'd come in for a round and then they'd head uptown, which is obviously not exactly a recipe for business success. And the only way out of it was to get a distilling license. We couldn't pull a liquor permit. So I went to distilling school in Kentucky, and using all the contacts I had from Germany, I worked in eau-de-vie distilleries in Austria and Germany. So eau-de-vie, fermented cherries, fermented pears, where you're trying to capture the essence of a pear or a Montmorency cherry, in spirit form, and it's served there as a digestif. And
it means water of life. I mean, what a perfect
you got
name.
it. But it's very popular to have a shot at the end of the meal, and it really helps in digestion. As an American, you think, what are you, insane? Why would I? But in any event, so I learned, I had all this experience with grain and with malting and all that kind of stuff from my brewing background. Then I went over to work on fruit, and then we came back. I came back and we pulled a winemaking license and a distilling license. Wow. We made the vodka, we made the gin. We were basically the first distillery pub in the country.
Yeah.
So understand that at the time, you either made whiskey, you were Jim Beam, or you made vodka, or, you were Tanqueray and you just made gin. Making everything was really unusual. The only other distillery at the time that came anywhere close to that, St. George, out of Alameda. Those guys are wonderful, by the way.
Their absinthe and your absinthe were very seminal moments in my career at Tag Restaurant. I remember taking around the drip a lot of times. You take it around the tables, you take the serpentine, loop around, and then all of a sudden I'd spend 45 minutes when I worked some front of house helping out at Tag. I'd spend 45 minutes just doing absinthe presentations for people, and it was always yours if somebody wanted something a little bit more soft and feminine, I would say, and then St. George if they wanted something a little bit more assertive. And
that's a perfect way of putting it.
Yes.
That's a perfect way of putting it. And of course, so it was legalized in 2007. So the very last year that we were in business, we moved to Colorado. That's a perfect segue. We moved to Colorado in 2008. So we had a year of sales there, and all we had to do was buy the first round.
That's
because
it.
Nobody knew what the hell it was, and they're watching the water fountain drip in, and it starts green, it changes color. Anethole, the compound that comes out of anise, is a mild anesthetic. So if you have a couple of them, your face goes numb.
Yeah.
So you kind of understand where all the mythology came from. And our absinthe, our sales have been doing this nice, slow, gentle increase, for over a decade. We keep thinking that, that the sales are going to go down.
Plateau at some point, but it keeps coming up, huh?
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to make it. Pardon?
Buying the first round. That was so clear. That's always what we did. Communicating with the servers. I think of David Gade, who now is Deviation Distilling, who's been on the show where he talked about hand sanitizer, which I want to talk with you about as well. And he was really good at finding that two top that were just amazing. Drank some really geeky Riesling or something, like let him take him on a journey. Or do a makase, and we would just cook for them and say, let's get them absinthe. We bought them one glass. It cost us $3.12. And then we would spend 45 minutes and we'd sell $278 worth of absinthe. Right. Like that. But it was a meaningful interaction for everybody. That two top They told everybody about it. They went directly to the liquor store and bought a bottle of absinthe, got onto eBay, found their own drip. Like those kind of stories, I think, are really personal and important. So
You're describing what got us to where we are. So some of the younger distillers will come along and say, "What's your secret?" And we're like, "Well, we're old." And you sell one bottle at a time. There's no magic. We're not, we don't have the financial resources to sell 10,000 cases at a pop. We are one bottle at a time. There's no other way to do it without having a few, the adage that started with wine and drifted into spirits. How do you make $1 million in wine? Well, you start with 10 million, right?
That's right.
So barring that, it's word of mouth. And in the spirits industry in particular, you don't want this. If you see this for your sales, that's coming.
Yep.
So we would rather just have nice, slow, sales increases. And we're hoping that, I have a 5-year-old daughter. We're hoping one of these days she runs the place. So slow and steady and make sure people know.
The name from Leopold Brothers to the Leopold Family Distilling Legacy, something like that.
Quick funny story. We actually, when she was, I think 2.5, we got her a little hoodie and we asked her, what does that say? And she said, "I know what that says. It says Leopold Sisters."
Yes.
So maybe a little bit of foreshadowing, and we're going to need to change the name in 20, 30 years. So we'll see how that works out.
You're going to have different portfolios, I think. O to V is going to make its way into the sisters.
That's right.
A big connection there. All right. I want to tell people, because I really am chomping at the bit to tell people about more personal story connections to you. Tell people about Silver Tree. What is Silver Tree?
Well, again, when we started out the bar and, we were trying to, market what it was we were doing, understand that it started as a call. So in other words, we have a bottle of gin, we have a bottle of vodka, and the only place we're selling it is at the pub. So we didn't want people to get the message that I'd like a Leopold's and tonic. It was like, well, which one? The gin or the vodka? Then it sounds generic. Then it sounds like they're made using the same process. And so we intentionally use different shaped bottles. We intentionally use different names. We had no idea where we'd be in 20 years, right? So calling it Silver Tree, we were trying, you can kind of see the trees in the background. That represents our family. It's 5 trees reflected in a lake is what that is. And it's we have a sister and obviously our parents, so it's 5 trees. But that's kind of where it came from. We were trying to call it something other than Leopold. So we called the gin, Leopold's American Small Batch Gin, and then Silver Tree Vodka. And of course, we were talking before we started. There's a ton of people who are massive fans of Silver Tree. I actually went to a liquor store for a tasting. And I always go to see what they have because usually I can sell out what they have in stock. So it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this and we're going to unload the shelves, right? So I go and I'm, facing the Silver Tree vodka and the spirits buyer, and this is a big store. The spirits buyer said, "Oh, Silver Tree, I love that vodka. You like it too?" And I'm like, uh-oh. So he had no idea that we made it. So now we call it, Leopold Silver Tree Vodka.
Yeah.
But that was just left over from when we were a pub, and in our minds, we didn't want to be known for one thing, right? So if you think about Tanqueray, believe it or not, had a vodka. They might still. I honestly don't even know. But when you think Tanqueray, you think gin. So understand that liquor stores, as you know, they're not set up the way that beer aisles are. Right? New Belgium and Odell has all their stuff in one place. Right. It's not like that for booze. So we run into people all the time who love our gin or love our absinthe or love our bourbon and have no clue we make liqueurs. And our liqueur fans don't know we make gin. So it's one of those quirks. And sometimes people make the mistake of thinking the spirits industry is the same as beer. And it's an entirely different animal. But that's where Silver Tree came from.
I love this because that's literally the experience that I had, and this is taking back down memory lane. So, 2007, when Betsy and I moved to Colorado, my first job was as a chef and then executive chef for Kevin Taylor. And we were right downtown, and our after work spot was Red Square and Ryder Square, right there, vodka bar, right? We had the Baltica beers, and we'd always have different vodkas, and Silver Tree was our number one go-to. Silver Tree with a pickle chaser. Loved it. Had no idea then, years later, doing events and different things at TAG and Row 14 and stuff with you, your brother, Leopold Brothers. It wasn't until a lot later that somebody asked me about that Red Square. I told them, yeah, we used to go there all the time and get way too hammered on Silver Tree vodka. Like, oh, the Leopold's vodka? I was like, no, Silver Tree vodka, not Leopold's. Like, they don't sound the same at all. They're like, no, that's Leopold's. It's like, shut up. So, and I had been in the industry for a long time. I had been buying booze, like, and I still didn't realize that.
Hey, nobody ever said we were good at marketing. So, yeah.
I don't know. I think you guys are pretty good at marketing. But marketing aside, your guys' brand is very thoughtful. This family, we've talked a lot about family to this point. And so I want to talk about your family when it comes to your extended family within the business itself. Talk about what's happening with them, what's happening within your business, kind of more contemporary with COVID and all this crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, you know, my brother, he got his undergraduates, as I mentioned, at Northwestern in economics. So obviously he does the bean counting and everything that doesn't pertain to alcohol. Then he got his master's from Stanford in environmental engineering. The idea behind starting up our business, and a lot of people don't know this, is we were trying to show people way the hell back when we put our business plan together in '94, how to make as close to a pollution-free factory as possible. So we don't talk about it a whole lot, you know, up front or on our bottles, because we learned in Ann Arbor that if you tell people that, if that's your lead in, then it's like, oh, well, you know, we're going to buy your stuff because we feel sorry for you or something.
Yeah.
It's heavy. Yeah, it's a mixed message. And what we want to do is we want to compete with everybody on quality. And we're doing the environmental side of things because it's the right thing to do, one. And for two, it's more financially efficient. So we had an entire section in our business plan on what's now called sustainability. Back then, we called it zero waste. Nobody knew what the hell that sustainability was.
Speaking of marketing, nobody had branded that yet?
No. That came a lot later. And we had to take it out of our business plan because bankers kept saying, what is this? And they're picturing in their mind that we're a bunch of crazy hippies. And I'm looking at them going, my brother went to Stanford. It's not like we're trying to explain to them, you know, using less energy, using fewer materials, using less energy. This is a smart business. You know, you set aside the environmental side, just look at what this means financially, that we're looking at every raw material input that comes into the building and what goes out. You pay for water going in, you pay for water going out, you pay for the materials coming in, you pay for the recycling and all that stuff. And if you're not using as much, it's a massive financial advantage. So at our place now, so now I guess we're 30, 40,000 square feet. I was told there'd be no math. With our new expansion, much larger for malting, we have one household size trash can. That's it. And of course, a lot of it is the nice.
Again. You have one household trash can for what? And give us some scope, because I've been outside of distilleries and breweries and seeing 50, 60, 80 trash cans. So
yeah. So we have just one, and what it is we're paying attention to what materials are coming in and out, and simply not buying them. So it's now people talk about the latest thing, or at least this year, straws and stuff like that. We were working through all of these things 20 years ago. How do you deal with not having coasters? What can you do that can replace that? How do you make it so that you're not, and some of it is health department stuff that you can't get around. And of course, these days we're finding out those rules are probably pretty important, right? But anyway, so it's going through when you're designing a plant before you go in and looking at the materials that you're, all of the things that you're designing, and we use wooden fermenters, for instance, right? So wooden fermenters, you can't clean them with chemicals. Okay, so if you make a beer or you make a spirit or wine, and you ferment it out in a stainless steel fermenter, and you empty it out to go to packaging or filtering or whatever it is that you're doing, you have the same cleaning regime. You rinse it with hot water. Then you circulate hot caustic. Hot caustic gets out the proteinaceous materials. Then you rinse it again. Then you hit it with hot acid. Acid gets out the mineral compounds. Then you rinse it again. Think about all that water. And then you're sanitizing it at the end. This process, depending on the plant, takes anywhere between 3 and as long as 7 hours, just depending on the huge tanks are a little bit longer. But think about all the chemical that you're using. Think about all the water that you're using. Think about all the labor that you're paying for. So the wooden fermenters that we have in back and we've calculated are free in relation to buying stainless after 8.25 years. So the meter stops running. You're not using all of that water. You're not using all that labor. So when we empty out our fermenters, we do one last little rinse of water to get the, what little bit is left. And then we fill them again the same day. And so this is a massive, financial advantage that we have in our business. And this is all, having Scott and of course having me understanding the fermentation and distillation process. It's a pretty powerful team when you're working together to say, how do we eliminate this? How do we make this as efficient as possible? But at the same time, it's led by quality, right? So using these wooden fermenters, what's important to me quality-wise is it's allowing for wild yeast and bacteria to live in those fermenters that are going to consume things that the yeast can't. Yep. And over time, it's going to lead to, what we have right now in a house note in our bourbon and our rye is orange marmalade. And this podcast is too short for me to go into detail, but so going after this quality, right? Chasing after the best possible whiskey I know how to make has all these cascading financial and environmental effects from that one choice. And if you're running through and thinking of these things before you design the plant, you can wind up with one trash can going out a week.
It's amazing. And so here's what I want to get to, because I think it's important. Very thoughtful, very fiscally responsible. The balancing act of that seems like magic because it doesn't happen very often. Too often you're on one side of the equation or the other and you struggle with the flip side of that equation. For you, it's been very much 20 years in the making, staying steadfast to that. What I love about it is it's giving you an opportunity in this moment. You've done a couple things that I think are important. Again, your staff is on staff. They're getting paid right now.
Yep.
And you did what a lot of distilleries did, which I love, the pivot of getting into hand sanitizer. You were in a position to be able to do those things because of your efficiency as a business, because of your fiscal responsibility, and because of your thoughtfulness that you actually give a shit enough to make that a decision when it could be a much easier decision to cut and run on things and take care of the business. But for you, the people are the business. So talk about that a little bit. The people, keeping it on staff, why that was important. And then let's talk about hand sanitizer a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first thing that my brother did. Spending the first 2 weeks of, when we realized what was coming, I figured it out about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the shutdown, what was coming. Or at least an idea. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying we predicted this or anything like that, but you can see what was on the train tracks and what was headed our way. So the first thing we had to do was, are our distributors ever going to order from us again? We don't know. The restaurants and bars are closed, but we didn't know whether liquor stores were going to be open or not. We had no idea. So we have to look at it and say, all right, well, how long can we last? So the first thing we did, obviously, Scott and I aren't getting paid. That's step one. We knew that. We knew that was the first thing to go. And then you look at, a lot of the businesses, talking to the chefs, that they put their homes up, right? To try and figure out, how do we make sure that we don't let go of the people who have been a part of our success. And so, we figured out a way to make sure that they were taken care of. It took about 2 weeks. We've been working with a local bank, First Bank, this entire time. By the way, when we closed on this current building that I'm sitting in, that's now a little over 5 years old, when we went into the closing, I was looking around and, I told my dad, I said, Dad, do you realize what this room is? This is where I got a small loan to go to Germany for brewing school from the same bank. We've been banking with them since the 80s, when we first got to Colorado, the early 1980 or whatever year it was. But anyways, they were great, and trying to, okay, here's what we can do. Here's where we have some flexibility. And so we got that taken care of. Once we got that taken care of, then because I'm a brewer, I know a little bit before other people maybe that it's obvious now, of course, but breweries obviously don't have any place to put their draft beer. So we've been working with New Belgium for over a decade. They've been using our barrels to finish their sour beers in them. A wonderful, wonderful relationship with them. And so I called them up and said, all right, what you got? Because we were getting phone calls from everybody, City of Thornton, City of Boulder, Kaiser Permanente, some muckety muck from Kaiser Permanente is calling us. And I'm like, oh man, this must be serious. So we have a vodka column, and that's an important thing for people to understand. Not every distillery has a vodka column, and what it is, I won't bore you to tears. What it allows you to do is to put beer in. So in other words, New Belgium beer, and distill it and clean it up so that it comes off of the still at over 95% alcohol. That is the base for hand sanitizer. You add hydrogen peroxide and some glycerol. You don't need to know about that. But we had to find all the materials, which wasn't easy because everybody's doing the same thing, right? The supply chain is broken, right? And obviously the regular companies that are doing this hand sanitizer didn't have it. So I think it took us about 2 weeks to chase all of the bits down to get what it is we need. The reason we reached out to New Belgium is, and again, without going down a rabbit hole, the mash that we make here is a 5% alcohol mash. Okay. In my opinion, it makes better whiskey. It makes better vodka. I won't bore you as to why that's the case, but what New Belgium,
right. Let's just call a spade a spade. You're right. It does.
Yeah. Well, I think so, but that's just my opinion. Everybody has a different opinion on these things. But the important thing is we couldn't raise the alcohol in our mash without cooking the solids onto the stills. So I call New Belgium. I know that they're going to have excess beer, and I know that they're going to have excess beer that's going to be well north of 5%. So that immediately doubles the amount that we're able to do because they're sending out 8 to 10% alcohol beer. And because it's all liquid, it's easier to bring to a boil, yada, yada, yada. So anyways, we got it all together. I think we're north of 50,000 gallons of New Belgium beer that we've distilled. And by the way, the first batch was La Folie.
Wow.
And the guys were in the back looking at, I think it was, about 1,000 gallons of beer. And we're sitting here doing the math behind how much money that is. That they donated. They donated that first batch.
Yeah.
Right? Well, they donated all of it, but they donated La Folie because that's what they had.
Wow.
It's obviously sellable, and they can keep it in their tanks, but they knew we needed it immediately. And the other important nerdy technical part, it needed to be uncarbonated. You can't put carbonated beer in a still. You boil it and it foams. You can't do it. So anyway. So we have this nice advantage that obviously I know all of these things because I brewed for 15 plus years. So we're just taking advantage of it and, trying to help, trying to do something. What can we do? Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but we're a distillery and we have a vodka column. And as I mentioned, we're one of a handful of distilleries in Colorado that has a vodka column that even has the option to do that. So that kind of is like, okay, we kind of have to do this. Really more than anything else, but it was something obviously we wanted to do and we wanted to help. And the important part is between New Belgium and Craig and I, we're working the still 7 days a week. We finally got a day off over the holiday weekend. Didn't feel like much of a holiday weekend, but every day because it's a long distillation run. It's about 16 hours. So he came in the morning. I did the night shift. To get the alcohol out, then you have to mix it up. R&L Carriers, a trucking company, was helping ship the beer for free. We had a company called Motherlode Provisions that got the dollar the gallon jugs, which you couldn't find anywhere. Consume and Create, they've done our beautiful labels. Don't mind showing you this real quick here. So the same company that did our beautiful redesign with our labels, they had to figure out how to make it FDA compliant. I had to learn how to make it. People just assume that I know how to make hand sanitizer. Right. I know. I'm like, why would you think I know how to do that? Right. But anyway, so we got it all together, and we've gotten several thousand gallons out of it now. It's gone to liquor stores, the people that are working in stores, obviously hospitals, fire departments, City of Thornton, City of Boulder, and actually apparently the Air National Guard helicoptered some of it to rural parts of Colorado together with the PPE that they needed. So it really went everywhere. And it was our little bit. It really isn't, it's our little bit. The people that are actually, coming into contact with the public, you want to do what you can to help. And when you get the thank you notes in, you'd understand, how worried people are and how brave they are. Just to simply go in and clock in at work, at a grocery store, a liquor store, or as a plumber repairman, or, whatever it is that they're doing, and just seemed like a simple thing to do. And we're grateful that New Belgium really stepped up, and all our other partners, because we wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So it was really, it was an affirming thing that so many people came together to make this happen, to help the community. And it was, I think that it not only did it help on the medical side of things, it helped on the spiritual side of it. You feel a little bit better that people are coming together to help figure out how the hell to get through this nonsense.
Yeah. Last thoughts on that. I maybe want to stay on that thread, because I just knowing yourself, your brother, knowing Taryn, the team that you have, like I just know that you guys making hand sanitizer had to have so much meaning for you, because you're a thoughtful company. You make an amazing product. You cultivate community, all those things. And at the same time, you create a spirit. Now you're creating something that is potentially helping save lives in a very meaningful way. So I know how important that is to all of you. So some last thoughts on just where you're at, seeing yourself as an individual, as a company, as a brand, kind of coming out of this now that you've created yet another layer of depth to your story.
Well, I do think it meant a lot, and to everybody here, what we've been doing, that as soon as we saw we could afford, first decision was, okay, well, what can we afford? And then from there, it's like, well, talking to our staff, you're outside of the production crew, their job is to not get this. They kind of, they kind of chuck, what can I do? We have such a wonderful team, and, they kept saying, I keep feeling like we want to do more, and it's like, your job is to not get this. We'll come up with stuff. And of course, part of the problem, with this communication, if you remember, in the first month was a train wreck.
Yeah, bad.
So we're struggling to try and get all of these things done. And, so sometimes they would feel, we were probably failing on the communication front with our staff, but there just weren't enough hours in the day to, take care of the physical stuff, take care of the hand sanitizer. We had to keep bottling, and to top it off, we were doing all of the social distancing, which means we've been running with a reduced staff. So we've been taking turns, and the kind of running joke we've been, having here is that we feel like we're in a sitcom with a divorced married couple that's forced to live together. Yes. Because, I've been in this room for the most part. I would be in this room and would not set foot on the production floor until everybody was gone, until the two people that we had working in the back in completely different areas were gone. Because, we're just trying to take every step. We can't get this. Yeah. I mean, obviously nobody can. Who the hell wants to get this? But from you got the medical side of things of not wanting to get this, and then you got the financial side of not wanting to get this, because if one of us gets it, now what? You have to shut down the plant. You have, So anyways, the one, the thing that we have that others don't is a pretty much limitless supply of alcohol. So this is about as sanitary
Yes.
of a facility as you can possibly imagine. And we literally have pails of 80% ABV alcohol sitting out, sanitizing surfaces and doorknobs and that kind of thing. But we're very proud to have made it through, and it is very much a small family business, and we're very lucky to be in the position. Part of it is just dumb luck. Part of it is that we've been at this for 20 years, but we're proud to have helped. But it's it pales in comparison in my mind to the people who are making food deliveries, right? Or working a register, or those are the people that you got to tip your hat. And if giving them a little bit of added comfort with a hand sanitizer helps, great. But the other part, that the small bit of funny part to it, if there is a small funny part to all this, is that we've been laughing about how easy it is to distill when you don't care what the hell it tastes like. And the only thing that's important is that it comes off of the still at over 95% alcohol.
Right.
And the flavor components don't matter. And as we keep telling the guys, don't get used to this. So
yeah, for sure. Oh, I absolutely love that. There's moments in levity in all of this, and I think that's really great. And the position that you're taking is important. And to your point, you have hand sanitizer, which is supporting a massive need. The thinking about their job is to not get it, love. And then also you have alcohol, which we all need just a little bit of right now to decompress in those moments. So I appreciate all the boxes that you're checking thoughtfully in this time. And I know that it's going to continue for you. So Todd, I appreciate you taking some time, because I know you got to get back to distilling and bottling, all of it. So thank you.
Of course. It's my pleasure.
All right. Great day. Cheers.
Right. Cheers.
Love that guy. Great energy, thoughtful, the family. It's a family business now. Watch out. Leopold sisters coming at you. So great. The work that they're doing, so important, and, humbled by the opportunity. I think talking about love, that he got to acknowledge so many different people that are part of that supply chain. Sophie, make sure we tag everybody up that he mentioned. R&L Carriers, New Belgium, everybody involved. It takes a village, absolutely. Very, very important stuff. And just, I'm a fan, for sure. A fan. And the fact that they're doing good in this moment means even more than anything that goes into a bottle. Believe that. Tomorrow's episode, Friday. Still May? It's still May. Friday. 20 something. Can't even keep track of dates. Diani Dela Cruz is going to be on. She is the executive chef of the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. They are the stadium for a little team called the Miami Dolphins. I'm excited to talk with her. A couple of reasons. One, she did all the food for the Super Bowl, and that was a massive undertaking. And I'm just super interested in I don't know what the hell that is, cooking for the Super Bowl. Also, the amount of food that they're able to produce is massive. And it's one of the themes that there's been a lot of chefs talking about. We're used to 200 meals. We just did 800 meals today. It shifts for them. They're used to doing tens of thousands of meals. So I'm interested in the economies of scale. So we're going to talk tomorrow, noon Mountain Time. All right, everybody. Your job, not to get this. It's a good